This is Lizzie from Let Zoe Spoil You.
And Sagira from Sagira Salutes You. And together, we are Newbie versus Weeaboo. Sagira, Newbie.
Lizzie, Weeaboo.
It's Newbie versus Weeaboo.
This podcast is brought to you by a veteran anime fan, myself, Lizzie, who wanted to share their love with a friend. That would be Sagira, who is our newbie. Each week, I make Newbie watch an anime film, and we discuss it from the points of view of someone who has watched anime for 25 years, did a master's in Japanese culture, and spent time in Japan, versus someone who has watched the Death Note in dub.
So, Sagira, what did you think of the movie we saw today?
Okay, so my synopsis for this one is more of a question, a musing. What would happen if April O'Neil from the Turtles met Terminator?
That's exactly what I was going to say. This is literally the adventure of a woman who was April O'Neil and became Sarah Connor. Today we watched Black Magic M-66. And to this day, I don't know why it's got the black magic part in it, so don't ask me.
Yeah, there was literally no magic.
I'm like, why is it called Black Magic? Even the code for the robots, they were the M-66. And the program was the M-66 program.
Wouldn't M stand for mechanoid or something like that?
Yeah, mechanised human. So why it has black magic in it, to this day, I don't know.
If you know, please comment, because we don't know.
The thing I want to know is, did this anime feel familiar? Or did you recognise something? Or
in what way?
In either the animation, the world, the storytelling, the direction?
Clearly something's gone over my head. There's something you want to tell me. Go on. Maybe if you say it, I'll go, oh yeah.
Okay, so this came out in 1987.
Oh, my birthday.
Yeah.
Well, not my birthday, but...
Yeah, all of 1987 was your birthday.
Yep.
And they made this film to commemorate the
is
birth of Dominique.
It's so
you. It's so you. And it's by the writer and the illustrator of the manga is one Masamune Shiro.
Uh-huh.
Who went on to next year making a thing called the Minion Tank Police.
Tank Police!
You feel the balance inside.
Tank Police! Oh, yes, now you said it. Yes, it's very Tank Police.
Yeah.
Yes. Because every single thing that we've watched just went through my mind going, what the hell have we watched? But now you said it, I was like, yes, Tank Police, very much so. Especially with all the big army dudes.
Yep. This is another Masamune Shiro. And it was one of his very first ones that got, majorly animated.
There you go.
There you are.
Alright. So, the thing that got my attention first of all was, of course, the lead character, because they're naked in the shower. So that's going to catch your attention. Definitely thought it was a man at first. Of course, because slim build, short hair, very... sculpted features, and then they had boobs. So it's like, oh, is it a woman then? And it obviously was.
Yeah.
So, and also the lack of genitalia, because you didn't see anything, but there wasn't.
Even if it had been a male, you wouldn't have seen anything because they can't draw penises. In
True, but at the same time, it's like when there was enough, when it showed enough of the crotchal area, there wasn't enough there to be a man. So it's kind of Barbie dolled.
Yes.
In the way it was done. So it's like, okay, so either it's a man without a penis or a woman.
Yes.
Which the obvious one would be a woman. And yeah, I thought it was really nice actually that they had this lead character.
Yeah.
Because what I'm noticing a lot in these animes is that there's a lot of strong female leads.
Yeah.
But there's no big deal made about it. It's not like, oh my gosh, it's a woman who's in charge. She's strong and independent. Wow, this is amazing. No, it's just, this is a woman lead, which is actually really nice because it's just matter of fact. We need more of that.
See, I think one of the reasons I got into anime so much and things like these, because I really love the cyberpunk and the science fiction and some of the harsher ones, but there had plenty of women for me to relate to as a teenager because they were all short-haired, slightly butchy girls, and I was like, well, that was me. And it's very much a design choice of that period of time. The 80s and early 90s and that period of anime was very much about the slightly butch, strong, confident woman in a man's world, but at the same time not really dwelling too much on the fact that it is a woman.
But also, I didn't feel that she was butch. I felt like she was androgynous, but she didn't have to be butch as well. She still seemed strong without having a muscular build.
Yeah. I mean, and she didn't have to dress uber sexy.
No.
I mean, those animes are still out there at the same time. There are some ones I'll show you where they are far more sexually dressed, but this one, it's not about... They'll have a little bit of titillation because, you know, they like to show a bit of the female form, but it's much more just about the journey.
I also feel like people dressing up sexy and stuff, great. But I also think there's something, not necessarily sexy, but attractive about a woman in baggier clothes. I don't know if it's because it's covering up more or if it's just because it's casual, but I find that more attractive than skin-tight clothes because it's just such a obvious thing and it's like so common. You know, dress sexy, you can see more, it's like, nah. But if it's like baggier, it's like, hey, she's relaxed, I can chill with her.
I always like woman in a suit anyway, so women in a suit, like, you know, especially since I like to be a woman in a suit too, so both ends of the spectrum's there. But what I love about this period of anime, and you'll notice it with the 80s and stuff, is it's 80s female fashion, but in the future, so it still looks like the 80s, but it's the future, so these women wear these amazing kind of like pantsuits that are a bit cyberpunk, a bit punk and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I'd wear that, I'd wear that, I'd wear that, I love it.
Something that I noticed in over a lot of things that we've watched is that, like this included, is that a lot of these animes, they're either futuristic or very fantasy, apart from Perfect Blue, which was felt more like it was our time. Is there anything else that's more like our time, or is it a majority of it like futuristic?
Oh, I think it's not the most majority of it futuristic, because I'm starting you off and I kind of had a bit of a rethink about how we're doing Newbie versus Weeaboo, and I've decided to go back and start you where I began and actually go through like the 80s, the 90s, so you can see how anime progresses. So it just happens that the 80s was very much science fiction and cyberpunk because the 80s in Japan was when they had their economic boom and they were making all the robotniks and they were like the leading cutting edge science in the planet and they were rich and were like they were doing really well until it all goes.
So they have the animes where they have these big mechanoids who shoot things and jump and are pretty much humanoid, and then we got the Tamagotchi.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where we are.
Yes, yeah. I mean, anime was still escapism. They were just dealing with like possible futures of if their society carried on the way it went, not knowing that it wasn't going to continue. So the 80s, but there were other things going on and stuff. Obviously, like Miyazaki was putting out the more traditional tales, and like which aren't so rooted in the science fiction genre. They're more rooted in taking traditional like folklore and peoples and mythology and nature and kind of representing it. There are animes that are like normal slice of life as they're known, and I will show you more of them as we go on. But this era, and the reason I got into anime are these type of films, which you're about to be exposed to a fair few of.
Fair enough. So I haven't written down a lot of notes because we watched it subtitled.
Yeah.
Which was fine, but it was very fast. I felt, for me, it went very quickly. I'm not a fast reader.
Okay.
So I kind of missed bits and bobs because I'd be still on the first line and the second line will have already disappeared. So I missed quite a bit.
You're interesting, it's that you say that the subtitles went quite fast on this one, so I was trying to read, and it was really weird because for me, I was like, oh, there's not many subtitles in this one. You don't really need them much because like the story's self-explanatory and it's quite simple Japanese. It's mostly like fire, run away, hurry up, catch up with me. Some military wango jango MacGuffins that you're like, well, you're probably going, I've experimented the bloody bloody bloody. Like, you know. So I was like, could have watched this in straight Japanese and still got what was going on.
Yeah, I agree. It was simple enough to follow what was going on, but still, the fact that it's there is distracting because you feel like you have to read it.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there trying to read every word, and like I say, because I'm not the fastest of readers, I'm starting to read it and it's already gone. And I'm like, that's that then.
There we go.
And also there was a lot of people talking at the same time.
Yeah.
So again, if you didn't read fast enough, you won't read what the second person was saying. It's like, oh dear. So yeah, subtitles not for me, but we'll keep pressing on with them.
Keep trying.
Who knows, maybe I'll be fluent at some point.
well, at least as fluent as I am, in which I can recognise the words run, help, you know, oh no, and a bit of swearing.
So the actual robots themselves,
Yeah.
so they looked kind of elven. Like, it was like they were mixing fantasy with the futuristic sci-fi. Because, like, one of them, why they had long hair? Did they need the long hair?
Again, it's part of the look of the 80s, and you'll notice that the one that had the more male design was the one with the long hair, and the female robot was one with the short hair.
Now, you say that, but then the elven one with the long hair, who was male, apparently, I mean, like, they haven't really got genders, but...
No.
But there you go.
Well,
One's male, one's female.
One had a more masculine body, one had a female body.
You say...
And one had male eyes and one had female eyes.
Ah, the eyes, I didn't notice that. So what's the difference between male eyes and female eyes?
It's pretty subtle in this, but the female robot, she had a slightly smaller nose, the rounder eyes with the eyelashes.
Oh, because...
And he had, like, he looked male to me. When I looked at her face, I would have identified... I mean, obviously there were theys and its, but in my brain I was like, well, that's got a male face.
See, now, I thought that the other one was female, not because of the hair, because of the breasts. Because they actually physically use those breasts to shoot things out of.
Well, the more
which kind of
female-y
made
one...
it a bit more pew, pew, pew.
The more female-y one had, like, rounded boobs, but he had sunken in pec plates that only opened up to release something sideways. Rather than she had, like, slightly more rounded ones that opened up to shoot all the missile-y things.
See, because she was so animalistic in her movements, didn't really catch that. I was more interested in the weird grudge-type movements she was doing.
I'd forgotten all about this. The interesting thing about this is I watched this anime... Okay, so obviously not in 1987, because I was, like, 7. But I watched it a few years later, maybe when I was 12. Now, obviously, a long time has passed since 12. And I was like, I remember zero about it. The only thing I remembered about this anime is I remember there being a long-haired robot shooting people. So rewatching it again now is like, it might as well have been watching it from scratch. So I really loved the weird animalistic movements, because I'm like, that's so unique, because you get robotic movements, but they've made these super soldiers. Not only have they made them humanoid in appearance, but they've actually made them closer to animals in the way they move and around the place. And it's like, so it's like even more like inhuman.
But one was more animalistic than the other.
Yeah.
And that's actually smart, because obviously there's certain things that animals do that humans can't that actually benefit.
Yeah.
So the fact that they combined the human traits with the animal traits to make it a killing machine was really clever.
Yeah.
So I think that was a really good idea for this anime. So another thing I noticed was transportation. Are aircrafts really the most practical way of travelling around? Especially around a mall? Like, you're going around a shopping centre in an aircraft.
I mean, come on, considering that on the ground there's probably all those tank police roaming around the place destroying everything. I think it was just a period where they were like, what's more futuristic than cars? You get flying cars. So everyone had weird little planes, and I was like, isn't that just really dangerous? Yeah, I'm like...
Especially with the giant police ones. I mean,
Yeah.
they are really impractical.
Yeah.
Surely if you're some sort of emergency service, you want a small plane.
A tiny plane.
So that you could get through things, it'd be faster, whereas this giant one couldn't really manoeuvre quickly, nor chase.
And once it's knocked down, it took out an entire building. He's like, you know what, you just get a flying motorbike, would have been much better.
Yes.
You know.
They didn't really think that one through in this future.
Not particularly. What do you think of the animation? Because it's dated, and this one looks dated compared to some of the other ones. But you can tell it was not a big budget production. It was one of first animated ones.
Yes, like the rain right at the start. Like, just lines, rather than actual... Nothing hit the floor. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no puddles, there's no splashes or anything. It's just literally lines. Which I kind of like simplicity.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to have amazing detail in stuff to get your point across.
No.
And another thing that was simple was like when the two guys were running through the forest.
Yeah.
Like the forest was opening up rather than all the trees going past really quickly.
Yeah.
So you could still tell that they were running, but they didn't need a whole ton of animation to show that.
Yeah.
So I like simplicity because it works with this form, because there's so much other stuff that has detail that they've lost it in other places, but it doesn't really affect it.
Yeah, so like despite it looking old, if you compare it to Western shows made around about the same time, they look even more dated because they don't have the fluidity that I find in anime. Even ones like from like this period, like I really enjoy looking at all the line work. Yeah, you can tell it's older animation, but it still looks like good animation. But you can tell it doesn't have the budget of the movies that will be made in Japan at this time. So you'll see some other things from this time period and go, wow, these two things are definitely animated differently. But at the same time, I do like it. And I also noticed that I love the facial expressions. There's so many expressions going on in faces. And there's also really clever like camera work for a thing that doesn't actually have any cameras in it. One of the bits I like is when they're crawling through that duct and it looks like she's crawling towards a camera that's been placed in front of her. So you get this like close up and this point perspective of the size difference. And that scene in the lift.
I was going to say when they're rotating round and round. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really good because you got to see it from different points of view, which was really nice. The other thing I like is the realism of Sybil's character, the reporter, because she was a strong female lead, but she wasn't manly kind of thing. So like when she lifted up the granddaughter, she didn't lift her up in the fireman lift or anything, or like spread across her arms. She did it on her back, which realistically you could do, because like that's a lot of weight you can carry that way. So I think it was really clever that the way that they did her character, like yes, she's a brave, strong female lead, however, she's not unrealistically mannish. Yeah. You know, and that was really nice to see.
She's just like a confident female character. They had the throwaway line right at the beginning about her not needing a husband because men are boring, to kind of make you identify as like, okay, she's the kind of girl that needs no man. She's going to be doing this herself, but she's not all like, yeah, I don't need no man. She was like, oh no, stuff's going on. I better pick this up. I better try and think my way out of this problem. I better protect this girl.
And there was 3 different kinds of women that I saw in this. I mean, there was only really 3 women in it. There was the military woman, who looked kind of like muscular, but that's because she's in the army, and you know that might happen. Then you've got the Sybil lead, who was tomboyish but not masculine or anything, like androgynous is more what she was. And then you had the granddaughter, who was the cutesy girly character. So you kind of got a spectrum of everything, but also it wasn't like this is this character, this is this character. It suited who they were. So it wasn't in your face, look at these characters, we're covering everything. No, it's just
you could tell that like with Ferris that she's like just a spoilt little rich kid that lives with her granddad, who's used to going, granddad, give me this, yeah, I'm spoiled, I don't have any real world connections, I do what I like. And then she's like, oh dear, I'm in trouble.
But it also makes sense to the fact that she's much younger. You know, like, she's been around robots and stuff. And also the naivety of it, where she was like, hey, it's the robot. Hi, robot. And it's like, you're going to die. So, you know, it made sense that she was this kind of character. And it didn't make her less because she wasn't as strong as the other women in it. Because in a real world, not everyone has the same bravery, the same exposure to life, etc. So, you know, it made sense in this world.
There was anime films that were made, which were made for like being in the cinema. Then there was these what are known as OVAs and OAVs, which are like original video animations, which were essentially a lot of the time made to promote mangas, and they run at about 45 minutes, and that's how like early anime started off before it got popular enough to get lots of series and there was a bit more money injected in it. So they used to make these 45-minute little movies to kind of get you into it.
And yet now you have TV series that are about 45 minutes long, and they're just an average episode.
Yes, exactly. Goodness.
Times have changed.
Yes. What are we rating it out of?
What are we going to use?
Stupid ships around.
Aircrafts. How many aircrafts out of 5 do you give it?
I'm going to give it 3, because while I do enjoy it, it hasn't held up quite as magically in my brain as when I first saw it those certain number of years ago. And it hasn't held up as well as other things I love from this period. But at the same time, it's still worth seeing. It's still a good film. Still enjoyed it.
I give it a 3 as well, because it's another sci-fi. I'm not a huge sci-fi fan, but obviously for anime of this time, we have to watch it.
You're going to have to get used to that.
So that's
the magic word will be like cyberpunk. You might have to just get used to cyberpunk for a little bit.
Fair enough. But at the same time, it was I think 45 minutes is a good amount of time for these things because it's short enough to keep your attention, but long enough to feel like you've got a whole story out of it.
It fleshes it out, but it's not overly long. If it had been an hour long, we might, be like, okay, can you go do something now?
Yeah, exactly. So I think 3 is about right for this one.
Yeah. Thank you for watching the episode, and if you want to hear more from me, you can find me on these social medias.
And if you'd like to know more about me, you can find me on these social medias.
From a Weeaboo, it's Johnny.
And from a newbie, it's bye-bye.